The Minnesota Vikings are currently navigating a high-stakes period of roster evaluation that demands our full attention. As we process these latest developments from the organization, it becomes clear that the front office is not standing pat while the rest of the league makes aggressive moves. We are seeing a combination of personnel departures, potential quarterback acquisitions, and high-level trade discussions that could redefine the trajectory of this franchise for the coming season. This is Kevin Seifert, and today we are breaking down the critical decisions shaping the future of this roster.
The reality of the NFL, as we have observed throughout the decades, is that roster turnover is an inevitable consequence of the business cycle. Today, we must address the departure of Zeke Correll, who has been officially waived by the Minnesota Vikings. This move, reported this Saturday, marks the conclusion of a tenure that was unfortunately defined by significant hurdles. Zeke Correll spent the entirety of the 2025 season on the injured reserve list, a development that essentially stalled his ability to integrate into the offensive line rotation or demonstrate his utility within the team's blocking schemes. When a player occupies a roster spot while on the shelf for an entire year, the front office is forced to perform a rigorous cost-benefit analysis. The organization clearly reached a point where the projected developmental return on Zeke Correll no longer aligned with the immediate need for roster flexibility. In the trenches, the Vikings require players who can not only grasp complex zone blocking assignments, but also survive the physical attrition of the regular season. Unfortunately, the health status of Zeke Correll rendered him unable to prove his viability in that capacity. From a historical context, we have seen numerous interior linemen struggle to regain their footing after a lost season, and the Vikings' decision reflects a cold, calculated approach to managing their assets. They are prioritizing current production and availability over potential, which is the hallmark of a team trying to maximize its window of competitiveness. This is a tough break for the player, but it serves as a stark reminder of how quickly the door can close in the professional ranks when a player is unable to contribute on the field. The waiver of Zeke Correll is not just about one individual. It signifies the beginning of a larger house-cleaning effort aimed at clearing space for players who can immediately impact the depth chart. As we look at the interior offensive line, the loss of Zeke Correll creates a gap that the scouting department must now fill, likely through either mid-round draft capital or cost-effective veteran acquisitions. The reliance on health as a primary metric for roster retention is a lesson that the personnel staff seems to have taken to heart following a season of volatility. We have to consider what this means for the remaining players in the locker room who are also fighting for their professional lives. The environment in Minnesota is becoming increasingly competitive, and the removal of depth pieces like Zeke Correll acts as a catalyst for the intensity that we expect to see throughout the upcoming minicamps. As the team pivots away from this decision, the focus naturally shifts to the most important position on the field, the quarterback. With the roster spot vacated by Zeke Correll now open, we find ourselves asking whether this move was simply the first in a series of planned maneuvers to facilitate a much larger acquisition at the signal caller position.
If you want to keep getting exclusive insights and deep dive analysis on the Minnesota Vikings, make sure to subscribe to the channel now and hit the notification bell.
The quarterback situation in Minnesota has moved from speculation to a critical tactical assessment. Reports surfacing just minutes ago indicate that the organization is actively evaluating a $46 million quarterback option to stabilize the position. When you look at the financials and the current state of the market, Sam Darnold emerges as a focal point of these discussions. The reality is that the Vikings are likely to secure a third signal caller to ensure they have the necessary insurance policy to compete in a demanding division. From a tactical standpoint, the addition of a player like Sam Darnold, or someone within that specific salary bracket, suggests that the front office is not willing to gamble on unproven commodities for the backup or bridge role. We are talking about a significant financial commitment that signals a desire for professional maturity and proven experience under center. If the team proceeds with this, they are effectively acknowledging that their internal depth is not yet at the level required to sustain a playoff push if the starter goes down. This is an analytical move designed to mitigate risk in a league where quarterback volatility can ruin a season in a single afternoon. Sam Darnold brings a specific set of tools that align with the team's offensive philosophy, particularly his ability to manage the pocket and execute intermediate passing concepts. However, we must also look at the implications for the long-term salary cap. Allocating $46 million to a quarterback room that includes a high-profile starter and now a premium third option is a massive statement of intent. It tells us that the Vikings are in win-now mode. The scouting department has clearly vetted the available options, and they seem to have decided that the cost of inaction at the quarterback position is far greater than the cost of this potential investment. We have seen teams fail in the past by neglecting the backup signal caller, and the Vikings are clearly trying to avoid that trap. The debate here is not just about the skill set of Sam Darnold. It is about how his presence influences the locker room culture and the preparation of the rest of the offensive unit. A veteran presence in the quarterback room is invaluable for development and situational awareness during games. If the deal for Sam Darnold or a similar caliber player is finalized, the team will have established a hierarchy that prioritizes stability above all else. This move also forces us to consider the broader strategy regarding how the team handles its draft capital. If you are spending this much on a signal caller, you might be less inclined to chase a quarterback early in the upcoming draft, allowing you to focus your resources on bolstering the defense. The domino effect of this decision is massive. It changes how opponents prepare for the Vikings, knowing that the backup is a capable veteran who can step in and execute the game plan with precision. As the organization moves toward finalizing this signing, the pressure on the current starters to perform at an elite level will only increase, as the front office has essentially provided them with a high-quality safety net. But while the quarterback room is being solidified, the defense is facing its own set of questions, particularly regarding the future of key pass rushers, who are suddenly being linked to trade rumors that could shake the foundation of the unit.
The most shocking development of the night involves the potential departure of a key defensive asset. A trade pitch is currently circulating that suggests the Minnesota Vikings could send Jonathan Greenard to a bitter division rival in exchange for a premier draft pick. From an analytical perspective, this is a move that would fundamentally alter the defensive identity of the team. Jonathan Greenard has been a cornerstone of the pass rush, providing the kind of pressure off the edge that is essential for competing against high-octane offenses. If the front office were to entertain such an offer, it would indicate a massive shift in their defensive philosophy, prioritizing future draft capital over the immediate impact of a proven veteran. We have to ask why the organization would even consider parting with a player of the caliber of Jonathan Greenard. Perhaps they believe that the defensive scheme is evolving to a point where they can achieve similar production through collective effort rather than individual dominance. Or perhaps the offer of a premier draft pick is simply too good to ignore in a year where the team needs to inject youth and cost-controlled talent into the roster. The emotional impact on the fan base would be significant, as Jonathan Greenard represents the physical, aggressive style of play that Viking supporters have come to expect. Trading such a talent to a division rival is a high-stakes gamble that could either provide the team with the assets to rebuild faster or backfire spectacularly by strengthening a direct competitor. When we analyze the trade, we must consider the salary cap implications and the dead money that would be associated with moving a player like Jonathan Greenard. It is a complex calculation that the front office is undoubtedly working through as they weigh the long-term benefits against the immediate loss of a defensive leader. The historical context of such trades suggests that teams rarely win in the short term, but if the draft pick turns into a franchise cornerstone, the narrative could shift entirely. Jonathan Greenard is at the peak of his career, and his value on the open market is likely at its highest point. The temptation to sell high is always present in a league that rewards draft success above all else. However, we have to consider the ripple effect this would have on the rest of the defense. If Jonathan Greenard is removed from the equation, the entire structure of the pass rush must be reconfigured. Opponents would no longer face the same level of threat off the edge, which would put more pressure on the secondary to cover for longer periods. This is a delicate balancing act. The Vikings are currently at a crossroads where they must decide between maintaining the status quo and aggressively reshaping the roster for the future. As we look at the potential move of Jonathan Greenard, we have to connect it back to the previous discussions about the quarterback and the roster depth. Every move made today has a direct impact on the team's ability to compete in the short term while building for the long term. If the front office pulls the trigger on this trade, they are making a bold statement that they are prepared to sacrifice current production to secure a brighter future. We are waiting for further confirmation, but the mere existence of these discussions tells us that the Vikings are exploring every possible avenue to improve their standing in the league.
The situation in Minnesota is fluid, and we are tracking these developments closely to see how the front office resolves these looming questions. From waiving depth pieces to entertaining major trades and pursuing veteran quarterback insurance, the Vikings are clearly in a state of rapid transition. It is a fascinating time to cover this team, as every hour brings new information that shifts the landscape of the roster. What do you think about the potential move involving Jonathan Greenard? And are you satisfied with the direction the team is taking at the quarterback position? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below, and let's keep the conversation going as we await the next official move from the organization. Thank you for tuning in.